Imagine a competition between two absolute masters of their craft. If they go head-to-head and both produce the exact same flawless work down to the final detail, so how do you declare a winner? This is a puzzle rooted in ancient Sanskrit literature, featuring two historical titans, Bhavabhuti and Kalidasa. Bhavabhuti possessed immense technical brilliance. His actual birth name was Srikanthan, but he was awarded the title Bhavabhuti by a council of scholars simply because he composed a single verse with such spectacular phonetic rhythm that they chose to rename him after it. The debate over which of these two poets was superior eventually reached the cosmic scale. According to legend, the goddess Parvati directly asked Lord Shiva to definitively judge who held the greater mastery. Shiva's answer was surprising. He stated that both poets possessed identical technical skill. The distinction between them was entirely psychological. Kalidasa operated with absolute certainty, while Bhavabhuti harbored a microscopic trace of self-doubt. To prove this theory, the deities set up a trap. Parvati disguised herself as an old weeping widow, holding a dead infant, and waited at the gates of King Bhoja's palace. The dead infant she held was actually another deity in disguise, Subramanya. The stakes of the entire scenario were an illusion. As poets exited the palace, the widow presented them with a specific challenge known as a samasya. This is an ancient poetic puzzle where a creator is given only the final line of a stanza and must compose the preceding lines to make a perfect, coherent verse. The widow made a desperate promise. If a poet could perfectly solve the puzzle, the magic of the completed verse would bring her child back to life. The deities were looking past the grammar, waiting to see how a creator handles the weight of life or death stakes. Bhavabhuti eventually arrived at the palace gates. He saw the grieving widow, heard her plea, and accepted the challenge to complete the samasya. This manuscript highlights the intricate nature of ancient Sanskrit poetry. Bhavabhuti composed a breathtaking verse, flawlessly fulfilling every technical requirement. But the widow gave a devastating verdict. She told him his magic had failed, and her child remained dead. Bhavabhuti looked at his work, and then at the child. He accepted the failure. He assumed his absolute best effort simply wasn't good enough, apologized to the widow, and walked away in defeat. His poetry was flawless. The break happened in his mindset. When reality told him his work was inadequate, he allowed that external judgment to instantly shatter his internal confidence. Shortly after, Kalidasa walked through those same palace gates. The widow stopped him and presented the exact same puzzle. Kalidasa studied the final line, thought for a moment, and wrote out his answer. It was word for word, syllable for syllable, the exact same verse that Bhavabhuti had just composed. Because the text was completely identical, the widow delivered the exact same rejection. She looked at Kalidasa and stated the magic had failed, and her child did not wake up. Kalidasa was now boxed into the exact same corner. He faced the identical failure parameters that had defeated his rival minutes earlier. Every external detail of the two attempts was now perfectly matched. The only thing left to observe was what Kalidasa did next. Kalidasa did not apologize. He didn't doubt his vocabulary, and he certainly didn't doubt his skill. Instead, he looked at the widow with absolute, unwavering conviction. He concluded that because it was impossible to write a better verse than the one he just provided, the child could not actually be dead. If the magic didn't work, the fault lay with reality, not his poetry. Parvati was stunned by this unshakable confidence. The illusion dissolved, revealing that the child was indeed a deity faking his own death. The distinction between the two men became clear. Bhavabhuti believed the world over his own art. Kalidasa believed his art over the world. Technical skill serves as the baseline. The final distinction belongs to the creator who trusts their work even when the world insists they failed.